Well, thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Queenslander. We're just in time for finals. We're back to our original starting lineup. Special shout out to Salty, who did a really good job. Impressive stint off the bench last week for Lockyer, who was over in London. You're back from England. What was that like? A working holiday?
It was a working holiday. I didn't realise Salty came off the bench. He must be... Was he a handy 14?
Yeah, he was an impact player, yeah.
Was he opinionated?
Yeah, he was a little bit opinionated, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he didn't hold back. He gave his view.
Oh, that's good.
He talked up the Broncos, though, so he filled in for your role quite adequately then.
The Broncos up, right?
Yeah.
Well, who would have thought what happened anyway? We'll get to that.
Yeah. What were you doing over in London? Buying footy clubs, apparently?
We're looking at, I'm one person that's part of a consortium that we're looking at the London Broncos, acquiring the London Broncos and hopefully getting them back into the Super League. It's obviously a club that's had its ups and downs. At the moment, it's sort of in a position where it's struggling to stay alive. And we're looking to put a heartbeat back into it. And I think the exciting part is it is rugby league. It's got the Broncos name attached to it. I think the most exciting thing is it's London.
Yeah.
London is a great city.
Yeah, certainly is, and there's plenty of Anzacs over there, Australians and New Zealanders, plenty of those guys that loved an opportunity. I remember when we got to play a game over there, the appreciation of watching rugby league was loved by a lot of the Australian and New Zealand public. So, yeah, the opportunity's there.
Well, the stadium only holds 10,000 they're currently playing out of, and there's 170,000 Kiwis and Aussies
in that London area.
In that area. So surely we could, attract a decent crowd out of that.
So is the plan to add 2 extra teams to the Super League next year?
Yeah, so the view is they're at 12. They're going to bring in 2 more to make it 14. And then they go to the negotiation table with the broadcasters next year. So they'll have more content. But I think the risk I think the negative that people sort of raise is that does that dilute the competition?
Yeah.
We'll wait and see. I think if you can distribute the talent across the teams, I don't think it dilutes it.
And my boy, Jason Demetrio, has been linked as the coach. It's good that after talking him up here for 3 years, you've listened to me.
Well, he's committed. He's committed. So whether the Broncos are in the Super League or the Championship, he's committed. So, he's sitting there waiting for an opportunity. He's hungry.
Yeah.
He's played in the Super League. He's coached in the Super League. So we're looking forward to that.
And while ever considered buying a footy club yourself?
I was on a different contract than Lockie was. Mine were the days, I think we were pounds, shillings and pence back in those days. There wasn't a lot of money around. But buying a football club, no. Love to be involved with footy clubs, but certainly never had the cabbage to buy one.
Well, Lockie, you did make it back in time for that amazing game, the chaos in the capital that they're calling it, the Raiders, Broncos opening week in the final. You had a front row seat for Channel 9 sideline commentary. What was it like?
After the full-time siren, incredible. I've never experienced anything like it. Just the twists and turns. Canberra thought they'd won the game twice.
Yeah.
Ricky, I saw Ricky because we were right beside Ricky in the Canberra bench. They were jumping up and down like they'd won the game twice.
Yeah.
And then, when Ben Hunt kicks that field goal, you can imagine the disappointment on their faces. I was thinking in that sort of last period of the extra time, whoever loses this, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had to get out of the telecast a little bit early, but watching the news the next night and just seeing how the general public was, as Lockie said, they were absolutely stunned.
Yeah.
It was like watching a boxing fight, and the standing 10 count had been put into place, and that they were almost in disbelief, could not believe what they'd just seen. It was a wonderful performance.
And speaking to Broncos fans who were in the crowd, Lockie, it was a very, dare I say, vocal Raiders crowd. They were in full voice.
Well, it was always going to be a hostile environment. It's always great to go to any stadium that's packed.
Yeah.
They're passionate. And I think it's great for not just the people at the ground, but it's great to watch that on TV. So I was looking forward to the atmosphere that was going to be at GIO, and that was there. And I think just the twists and turns that happened and the sin bins and all of that, they got pretty excited, pretty parochial at times.
Yeah.
And the twisted heads or bodies weren't just on the field. I was sitting there when that last one went over and turning the heads. Oh no, is it going to go? Yes, it is. So they're finishes though that I'm sure the rugby league bosses, they love it. It's worth its weight in gold.
I was actually driving home from commentating the Q Cup semi-finals at Wynnum, so it takes me about an hour to get home. And then I turned it on the radio, and then I came back, and then I had a text message from mates saying the Broncos are done. So I flicked it back on and realised they're 16 points down. And you see those two little strokes under the team names to indicate the sin bins. I'm like, what has happened there in the space of 10 minutes? But for them to turn it on was just phenomenal. And I'm so happy that Ben Hunt gets that moment after everything that's happened to his career, I guess, as former playmakers yourself, to see someone like that experience the moment.
Well, I think that the sin bins, back to that was the turning point.
Yeah.
Because when Reece came back on, he got a bit fired up with the crowd. He said, I'll show you, I'll prove a point. And away he went. It's like the Roadrunner when he scored that try. But then, yes, and he came out and did what he did to get him back into the game. And obviously, Paddy, disappointing that he's going to miss a game. We'll get to that in a minute. But it was for Ben Hunt. Yeah, look, I think that's huge for his confidence. You know, in terms of going into these big games, because it's just something when you do that and you ice a moment in a big game, it's huge.
Yeah. And I believe that's only his second field goal in his NRL career. Hard to believe. He kicked one for the Dragons. I think it was in 2018. So it's almost good when you kick a field goal, guys, and you would know this a lot better than most, to have a backup. It's almost better to have the fake out the back to someone, and to have someone like Ben Hunt there is so beneficial.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those situations, though, I think whenever you're in the opposition team, you kind of target the players that you think are more than likely the ones that are going to have a field goal shot, and you tend to target them. So there's probably two or three guys that they would have been having a look for. His experience, though, was something else, and put himself in perfect field position, got a good shot at it, and you could just see the replay was fantastic, watching the heads on the players almost trying to make the ball go in. But it was one of those occasions, I think, it's worth its weight in gold, something like that. And, certainly the rucks prior to that certainly earned plenty of reward.
Well, this time of year, these are the sort of things you've got to practice, these field goal moments. And I agree with you, Adam, you've got to have a variety of plays where it goes to the main guy, but then you can flick it onto someone else. You've got to get in the right position. And I felt like the other night both teams struggled a little bit to get into the right position for the kickers. And I'm pretty sure, I was reading the stats going into the game, I don't think the Raiders have kicked a field goal all year.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So, interesting that.
Yeah, surprising.
And they were obviously very close the other night, but they weren't able to execute that. But to have Ben Hunt step up and do what he did again, I would just say I think all the clubs out there, the Broncos, you got to practice those particular situations.
Yeah, and what'll get lost in the wash-up is Reece Walsh's 2-point field goal to level the scores, and it hits the crossbar. What were you thinking when you were watching that?
Well, originally when he went down, everyone's going, "Oh, Reece Walsh has broke his leg."
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. But it's obviously he's playing smart.
Yes.
He's
buying
created attention.
Yeah.
And then when the replay shows that, well, that's a penalty.
He hits his leg, yeah.
But I forgot that the penalty is not. I'm thinking he's got to kick a 47-metre penalty goal to tie it up. And then, lo and behold, they go 10 metres out in front.
Yeah.
Like, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it just completely changed the game, obviously.
Yeah, I thought the same thing as you, but one of my mates who's a ref texted me straight away and said it'll be a penalty 10 metres out because the ball doesn't land. But the one I was referring to beforehand, he had that field goal attempt even before that. Remember, he kicks that field goal and hits the post and come back. Yeah. Like, that gets forgotten about in the wash-up because so much else happened. And I thought that was over, and you could see his reaction to, like, he was pretty confident. But
I was watching him in the warm-up. He was hitting 2-point field goals easily, and they were all going through. So
amazing.
You can imagine the screaming that would have been going on around Brisbane or Queensland when it did hit and came away. There was absolute disappointment on show.
So when he goes to the sin bin, guys, I don't know if you were ever sin-binned in your career? You guys were too polite. While definitely not at Origin level, that would have been a stitch-up. What happens when you're in sin bin? Would he get a message from Madge to say, hey, pull your head in, or hey, when you get on, I want you to do A, B, C, D, and E?
I'll be a best of both.
Yeah.
Would be to pull your head in, but when you get back out there, there would be some plans from the coach on what to do, and he's got enough experience to understand, what's necessary when he went back out there. But it was also, you have a look at the Broncos players. They're not, they don't carry too much experience, but they've got enough to understand what was required at a time like that. And it was fantastic. It was just a thrilling game, one that I'm sure Madge, his blood pressure would have been at an all-time high as he was watching that take place. But just a wonderful game for the Broncos, and certainly will inspire them to even better performances. Well,
you talk about Madge. I think that's the most animated I've ever seen him, even after when South won the grand final.
Definitely, yeah.
But that's how much the tension that was created by the ebbs and flows, the twists and turns. The build-up was huge to the result.
Yeah, and I think it'd be infectious on the players too, seeing the coach, how much it means to him in his first year translates out. So did you ever get sin bin in your NRL career, Lockie?
I did. And Russell Smith was the guy that did it to me. He's an English referee.
Yep.
He works for the NRL. I see him in the tunnels a lot, and I still give it to him. I said, Russ, because he reckons it was a professional foul. I stole the ball. I was playing fullback. I raked the ball out of a guy that was trying to score a try.
Yep.
And I think at clubland that's not a penalty, but in international rules it's professional
foul. So it was playing
foul.
for Kangaroos?
Yeah, playing for the Kangaroos. And he put me in the bin. Thanks, Russ.
But now you're allowed to do that, so it led to a real change. Just before we go on Reece Walsh, thoughts of the headbutt situation? Was he lucky not to be suspended for that? Your thoughts?
The pause is deafening.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it really deserved it all that much. But was the referee going to take action? Well, he possibly could have, and I suspect that he was going to. I felt very relieved that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Obviously very nervous
Yeah.
about what was going to happen there. But then there was, on 100% footy last night, they showed some other examples of what happened this year and didn't get penalised. Didn't get suspended, just got fined. So I think the precedent was set. I think any harder, it could have been another discussion.
I often wonder, since watching it, if it had been just a normal club game, I reckon he would have been in the can. They would have had him in the bin. Being a match of that importance, though, it was a completely different decision.
I do think Canberra should feel themselves unlucky that they didn't get the penalty.
Yeah.
I don't think Hudson Young needed to go to the bin.
Yeah. Upon reflection, that's the part they did get wrong. But do you think Walsh needs to just be a little bit smarter in that situation, because teams will try and bait him from now on, trying to agitate him and suck him in? Like, you guys obviously would have had it done to you throughout your careers. How hard is that just to block it out?
Well, what the sin bin did, or what that did, it poked the bear.
Yeah.
So, yes, I reckon there'd definitely be coaches trying to deliberately get under his skin to frustrate him. But at the same time, if you poke the bear, look out.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons, I'll try and get under his skin too, to upset his form. He was in wonderful style, really performing well. And I think that if you can take his mind off his intentions, and that's usually the case for opposing players that are the lead players in the team. You try and get their mind off it, and if you can do that, half of your battle's won almost instantly.
Well, it's been dubbed the greatest finals match of all time. Where does it sit with you guys in terms of memories? Like, being a Cowboys supporter, I think it was 2022. The Cowboys won in extra time when Jason Taumalolo really turned it on when they were dead and buried against the Sharks. I also remember one when I was a kid growing up. The Bulldogs come back to beat the Eels in extra time.
The SFS.
Yeah.
That was the one. That's the only one I can think of that's even close.
Yeah. And they had it in the back. And then they go on and play you guys in the grand final, the Bulldogs.
It was 98. 98.
Yeah.
Darryl Halligan kicked it from the sideline.
That's right.
Yeah. But, look, was it the 89 grand final where the Benny Elias field goal hits the post?
Yeah.
That was sort of...
The same vibe.
It had the same feel to it, but it didn't have as many twists and turns as this thing did.
Yeah. Canberra had plenty of people on their side that day, and watching that one that hit the crossbar, I think there was heart attacks taking place all around the country. That was an outstanding grand final.
Steve Jackson scores from his try.
Jacko carried him 10 metres over the line. Jacko tells us it was closer to 20. But he pulled out a cart with the footy with a ball in the left hand carrying 3 guys on him. That was something quite astounding.
You go back and watch it, even though you know he scores the try, you watch it and you go, he can't
get there.
Yeah, surely they wrap him up. But he eventually gets there.
I think their coach, the opposition coach, was saying, you didn't get him. That was the problem.
Yeah. But one unfortunate thing in the aftermath of that is Patrick Carrigan will be suspended today. Broncos confirmed they accept that 1-game ban for him. How hard was that, guys? Because had he gone to the judiciary, he needed to seek a downgrade, which is very rare in this day and age. But then if he'd lost, it's a 2-game ban, potentially miss a grand final.
Yeah, I think put some faith in your team. They can get the job done. I think the roll of the dice was not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Pat's, it's a good call, Lockie. It'd be very expensive had he missed the 2 games, but he's a wonderful player, very experienced. He's got the trust of his teammates on board, and I think that he's showing plenty of faith as well in the team.
In that situation, is it the club who makes the call, or as a player, do they come to you and go, what do you think, what do you want to do?
I think it'd be a combination. I think they'd have a discussion, get the advice from the legal representatives, because I think at the end of the day, the legal sort of, they're the ones that have got to argue.
Fight it.
And understand how to defend it or get it downgraded. So if they feel like it's too much of a risk, then really, I know emotionally as a player, you're going, I want to play.
Yeah.
He's thinking, I'm playing in a prelim at home in Brisbane, atmosphere is going to be a great big game. But you've got to probably take the emotion out of this and just use your head. Yeah,
and I think the club probably would have listened to him saying, well, this is the argument that I'd put forward, and obviously there'd be some assessment of that, and perhaps even talk to a lawyer about the probability of him being able to get off with that. So I think I agree with Lockyer. They've played safe in this one. It could go either way, but times are tough.
I was talking yesterday to Sammy Thaiday about it, your ex-teammate Lockie, part of the last Broncos premiership winning team. He said the Broncos should have named Patrick Carrigan to play for Burleigh Bears this week because they're still available. They're still alive in the Queensland Cup. They're a legitimate feeder club. Paddy lives on the Gold Coast down near Burleigh Beach down there, so maybe...
That's happened before.
Yeah.
That's happened before.
Did you play
where they've been out on the Saturday and played the Sunday?
Yeah. Is there an Origin one where it was TBA?
TBA.
Yeah.
TBA.
Yeah. Let them get through the weekend and then see what happens. But on Carrigan, how big a loss would it be? Because he's quite unique as a middle forward. He's very heavy in the ball-playing role, so he's hard to replace in terms of a like-for-like. We hear that Xavier Willison will be right to go from that broken arm return, but it's still a massive outlet in Carrigan.
Look, he's their forward leader. I mean, he's the current captain. And you saw like what he got suspended for, that aggression off the line. He went out, when they played the Storm, he went after Nelson.
Yeah.
Like he wants to dominate the alpha male in the opposition. So they're going to miss that.
Yeah.
I think Kobe Heatherton's probably the logical 13. He can still ball play and he still whacks them in defence. So I think they can compensate for his loss. But if Xavier comes back, look, he's young and he hasn't played for a while, but he's a big inclusion.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player, Pat. He volunteers his services to do plenty of work throughout. He's valuable to not just the coach but his teammates as well. And I think that it must have been a tough decision to make, not an easy one.
And thoughts too, the NRL's going to break with tradition and play that preliminary final on a Sunday afternoon. So it hasn't happened in the NRL era. So 30 years, 1995 was the last time a prelim final was played on the Sunday. Your thoughts on that move, guys?
I don't know if they consulted with the clubs about that. I do. It's obvious why. It's a commercial decision because AFL Grand Finals are Saturday, so it's fresh air for the NRL on Sunday, and it's a double header. The Broncos women's will
NRLW,
play.
yep.
So it's a big day at Suncorp. I guess the only negative is that if whoever goes through has only got a 7-day turnaround to the grand final, where the opposition will have 9 days. Now, 7 or 9, there's no real big difference. But the only way I reckon it becomes an issue is if the mental, if you use it as a negative as a player, then that is a disadvantage. But if you just it doesn't matter whether it's 7 days or 9 days, we'll play on.
Yeah, well, that's it, Lockie. For a winning team, they're going to show the same inspiration about being available for that grand final, even if it is 7 days. They'll be just damn determined to get out there and bring home the cup. Yeah,
my theory on this is it's a fair disadvantage to the team that's going to play on Sunday. Not just the Broncos, whoever they end up playing. So like the Panthers or the Bulldogs, and they have to fly back to Sydney. Like the grand final week preparations are huge. So say it's the Broncos, they have a day off on the Monday. They'll train Tuesday. A lot of them will have to go to the Dally M's on Tuesday as well. And then it really condenses the week. So to me, what it opens it up for is something I've been advocating for a while. Follow the NFL and have a 2-week lead-up period to the grand final to allow for this situation, but also there's going to be a day where a star player is going to cop an HIA and going to have a mandatory 11-day stand-down period. So if that's a Reece Walsh, if that's a Nathan Cleary, they're out of the grand final. And then it also eradicates this, you get a 7-day off and then I get a 9-day off period.
You should be on the commission.
That's it, yeah. Kate Jones, I'll come job share with you. And then the issue is then you have a week of no footy. So my theory is you play the NRL All-Stars there because teams are reluctant to play it at the start of the year, players getting injured. I think it'd be more agreeable to play it at the end of the year. So the teams who have been eliminated from the finals, you go play the NRL All-Stars or the Maori All-Stars.
What about, we talked about this when all these teams had got themselves in a good position, they rested players, right? So, for example, Canberra got beaten by 60 points by Dolphins.
Yeah.
So if you had a bye before you went into finals, then you probably avoid that.
That would help that situation.
That's probably, but your call around, if you've got a Category 1 out of either of these 4 teams playing next week, like you're going to potentially
miss the grand final.
Cleary or a Reece Walsh, which is probably more detrimental to the game than the other stuff.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to do what you do, and I like the idea, you maybe look at the Daily M's being hosted on the weekend. And we talk about a draft. But if we've got a window where we can sort of focus on rugby league that's away from the playing, and that's probably the best outcome for me, in my opinion.
I would also like to see maybe the NRLW grand final is played on that weekend to give them a bit more clear air, because I get the sense at the moment it's unfairly tacked on to the NRL grand final. It's part of the day and it's a showcase, but I think the women's game has grown enough that they can have their standalone grand final on that week off.
Join the commission. You get that.
Yeah. If they adopt the idea, I want 2% of the revenue that they generate from that. That's a fair deal, Andrew Abdo.
There's the call. It's been made.
Yeah, my rant's over now. But moving on to the Broncos, who would they rather play, the Panthers or the Bulldogs?
I think I just don't know how the Dogs can beat the Panthers given
injuries.
And you just got to look at game management from Cleary.
Yeah.
Toby Sexton probably looks like he's going to play 7, Burton to the centres, Galvin to 6. I just think the experience there from Nathan is just going to be too much for the Bulldogs. So I think the Broncos will be playing the Panthers.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lockie. Certainly the moving a couple of those players around, I think the key players that were opposite the Panthers, that'd be hard to imagine.
And if, the Panthers won a grand final against the Rabbits at Suncorp.
COVID,
Oh, yeah. And obviously what happened in 23. So there's a few demons.
Yeah.
Broncos, but there's also Parramatta's. They've won big games at Suncorp before.
In a way, could that be a boost for the Broncos if they play the Panthers at Suncorp Stadium in a prelim and beat them? Because they're undoubtedly their bogey team based on what happened in 2023, the way that grand final finished. So if they beat them in a prelim, that's their demons eradicated, and then they go, okay, you know what, we can do anything in a grand final?
One game at a time.
Yeah.
We don't know who they're playing yet, but, we're both picking the Panthers. But if they play the Panthers, it's obviously, the state of origin experience for the Panthers is probably what worries me the most.
Yeah.
And I think most teams think that they can do anything in a grand final as well. Yeah. They produce their best, whether they've got players that are missing through injury or suspension. They still get to be able to produce their best in one that basically dictates how successful the season is for them.
On that other final, just quickly, so Raiders play the Sharks, which you'll catch live and free on 9 on Saturday night. So who's your tip in that? Will the fatigue factor take too much of a toll, do you think, on Canberra? Or would they still be on a bit of a high, given the fact they get to play at home as well?
I think I mentioned it before. Sort of at the back end of that extra time, I'm like, whoever loses this is going to hurt.
Yeah.
So they got to pick themselves up from the canvas, the Raiders. And I think Ricky's been... The last sort of 2 years, he's been a lot different with his reaction to results. I think he's handled this very well.
Yeah.
I think they will get back on their bike quickly, and I think they'll just be motivated to play well. And I think that result hurts them, but I think they'll, in front of their home crowd, I think they'll want to repay them. Yeah. And I reckon they're going to be very hard to beat the Raiders.
Yeah, it'll certainly inspire them, and Ricky's got plenty of experience both coaching and also playing in finals himself. They had quite a number of grand final appearances whilst he was part of the team. That sort of experience can't be wasted, and I think that the trust that exists in that team throughout the course of the year will insist that that's the decision he makes.
What about their fullback too, Kaeo Weekes? How good's he up close, Lockie? Who does he remind you of?
Well, there's a lot of these sort of fullbacks now that he doesn't pass the ball a lot. He's a runner.
Yeah.
Kinney type sort of player. I sort of, when he scored that length of the field try, Mariner tried to get him. No one
couldn't even get close.
He's fast.
Yeah.
And he's strong. So he's a game breaker, right? So I think he's the type of guy, I reckon, because the Sharks were great defensively last week, and I reckon if it's a real arm wrestle, he's probably the guy that's going to win it for him.
He reminds me of another Canberra fullback, Brett Mullins.
Oh, yeah,
From his day, the way that he runs with the ball. He was one of the most dynamic fullbacks in the game, and his attacking play absolutely shot the opposition defence to ribbons on a number of occasions. And the way that he carries the ball, he carts it, and the way that he targets different positions in the line, he's almost a carbon copy.
Yeah, and on that 90s nostalgia, how good was it during the game? There was a moment of Walters tackles Stewart, Raiders playing Broncos in a finals match. There was just it just took me back to my childhood. Billy Walters taking down Jed Stewart there. So yeah, it was weird that the dominance, where you were part of it, Lockie, of the Broncos in the 90s, never played the Raiders in a grand final. It was almost they were the two heavyweights who never clashed.
Yeah, and. I think both teams are obviously hugely successful, but never played in the grand final. But who's to say?
Couldn't happen still this year.
Because if the Raiders win, they go to Melbourne, and they've beaten Melbourne in Melbourne before, so they're not out of it.
Could get the rematch. What about the Storm too? 10 out of the past 11 seasons have made it to a prelim. That's insane.
Oh, he's a wonderful coach, Bellamy. Whoever's also Frank Panisi in charge of deciding which players were coming to Melbourne. That was fantastic. And I think Bellamy, though, as a coach, has always paid due credit to Wayne Bennett. He was at the Broncos, of course, as a trainer, and he said that he learnt plenty at the Broncos, both from the coach and also the players, which was quite interesting. And I think he's never told any fibs on that, and he certainly studied very hard, that's for sure.
Yeah, amazing too to get there without your first choice halfback and first choice fullback.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. his stats, Craig. But I just feel like they just haven't fully clicked.
Yeah.
All year there's always been something missing. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saving it till the last, but they just haven't fully clicked.
Yeah, you can't help but tip your hat to the Melbourne Storm. Back on the Broncos too, I mentioned Billy Walters there. How devastating is that? So ACL damage to his knee, so highly likely won't play again this season. Given he's played such a huge role in the team the past month or so, that's hugely disappointing.
Yeah, it's cruel because he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah.
Look, I think there's still a glimmer of hope that he, I'm sure he'll be doing everything he can to try and get himself ready for a potential grand final. But if he's not able to, it's you look at the heartbreak of losing 23, and then getting potentially this close to another grand final. That would be devastating. And it's he's been so good for him. He's showed so much resilience. He's been so positive, given what happened at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And so it's just it doesn't seem fair.
No, he's walked under a ladder somewhere, Billy. But he's done some wonderful things at the club. Certainly deserved to be included. And if he misses out, it'll be absolutely shattering.
Yeah,
It really would.
You go back and watch just before full time, he takes a crucial hit up in that Broncos-Raiders game. So he's looking around for a forward to take a hit up. They're out of position. So he gets it, tucks it under his arm, runs 10 metres, gets him in perfect position to kick a field goal. That, to me, highlights the footy smarts of having the value of someone like Billy Walters in the team.
Well, he's the footy smarts, but team first. He's team first. Yeah.
And he was clearly injured at that moment too. You could see that his knee was strapped. So with Billy Walters out of the prelim, what do you do with the halves? So the talk is Adam Reynolds will definitely come back. Do you move Hunt to 6 or do you bring Mam back into 6 because there's talk that he might be ready for that and move Hunt to 9?
Well, again, I got no inside information here. I'm just...
You're just a fan like us.
Analysing this like a fan. The option might be if Ezra's capable, then you put him on the bench. And then when you're ready to bring him into the game, you put Hunt into hooker.
Yeah, okay. And still start with Pakes.
Yeah. So, because you can't just... I don't think you could put Ezra... You can't put a lot of these players who haven't played for a while cold into a grand final, potential grand final. We're not there yet. So these guys that are coming back from injury need to get some game time in this prelim if they're going to potentially play the following week.
Especially coming off dual hamstring strains, you don't want your two halves for the next game in the prelim final to be Reynolds and Mam, who have both come back from hamstrings. So, you've got the experience of Hunt steering the ship. So, I reckon potentially that could be the option. And one of the unsung heroes in that Canberra game was Tyson Smoothie, who'll never get the raps. So, he played a pivotal role in the back end of the game. But we could talk about that Raiders-Broncos game forever. But
did you listen to it or watch it in the car?
Well, I went back and watched it after... I watched the end of it. I went back to see where it went to. But how wary would Madge be of changing the halves too much, given that where they've got to?
Well, he's obviously out for the prelim, so he has to make a change there.
Yeah.
So the logic is bring in Reynolds.
Yeah.
Who needs some game time anyway.
Yeah.
He'll go back to taking control of the team, kicking game, Ben Hunt there. And then if Ezra's capable from a fitness perspective, then you bring him in and then potentially, Ezra and Ben Hunt...
Interchange kind of thing.
Yeah, but then if the following week if they get there, then you've got the ability to put Hunt at 9, put Corey on the bench and start Ezra.
Yeah.
But so I guess the focus has got to be to win the prelim first and hopefully give those guys some game time.
Yeah, it just highlights how good a depth the Broncos have there too. So their recruitment and retention guy must be doing pretty good. That's the board part of the board you're on, Lockie?
Yeah. But I take a very backseat role.
Yeah, we're usually slamming you for the Broncos recruitment, but at the moment the depth has been phenomenal in this final series.
There's Xavier to come back.
Yeah.
Jack Gajewski potentially.
Yes, Jack. And then Selwyn too.
Oh yeah.
So
I think Selwyn might play Q Cup finals this week. There's talk that he might play for Wynnum to get some game time.
There's some injured guys coming back.
Yeah. And one of those who we thought was injured but is not injured at the moment, Payne Haas. What does it say about him? Because twice during that game, he looked like he was shot.
Yeah, he looked like he'd been hit by a bus.
Yeah.
And went down. And I think one of the callers might have said, "Oh, he looks gone. He looks gone." Well, he looked gone, but he wasn't. He's worth his weight in gold, this bloke. He really has a dig, carts the ball with monotonous regularity. He's tough, and only he knows, how bad the injury is. But I think that he's going to be very determined to once again be an important part of the team.
Oh, hugely resilient, tough. When he first went down, you could see it was awkward.
Yeah.
And you could see he couldn't put any weight on it. And they're not, because Ricky's right beside us where we are on the sideline. And he's yelling out to his players, Haas, like he's targeting him.
Run it.
Because he was limping around, and I was worried too that anyone with a bit of speed around him, he might not just be capable of making the tackle. Comes off, gets it strapped. That immediately improves it, and then later on he comes off. I'm sure
He got the shot.
Yeah.
and then he gets injured later. He injures it 3 times.
Yeah.
And stays on, incredible.
Yeah. So he gets now a 2-week recovery from that. Boys, what's it usually like when you do an ankle? So he's rolled his ankle or twisted the ankle, depending on how you wanted to fight. And so do you just ice it or rest it or?
Yeah, you ice it and you work out with the physio. But quite honestly, I think I did mine once. I was very lucky in the whole career. Basically just in those days it used to be strap it, put ice on it, and keep it as still as you possibly can. And now there's a lot more professional approaches taken, of course, but looking after it for the first 48 hours is absolutely imperative.
Well, you got to get the fluid out of it. So you got to elevate it, ice it, just try and, because it would have blown up like that, without a doubt. So you just got to get the swelling out of it so you can get functional and mobile again. I mean, the upside of the win is he's got time.
Yeah,
he sure has. And to get the swelling out of it, I remember when I was probably about 19, I think, and a bloke said to me, "You know how to get the swelling out?" And I said, "Oh, mate, what are you talking about, a needle?" And he said, "No, get a bag of washing soda. Get a bag of washing soda, put it in a football sock or an old bank bag."
Yeah.
And tie a knot on it, put the washing soda there, wrap it up overnight, and you'll find in the morning. And I thought, what is this bloke talking? He's got no idea. Anyway, I'm hoping to play, so get the washing soda. They're crystals, about the size of a bit of rice or a bit bigger, and wrapped it up overnight. Got up in the morning and all the swelling was gone.
Yeah, right.
And it sat there, and when you put it down and left it alone for about 10 minutes, it was like an absolute brick.
Yeah.
To break it up, you had to hit it with a hammer after it had taken all the fluid out.
Yeah,
and
right.
there are a lot of guys I used to say, do this for it. They said, "You're not the full quid, Lewis. You old timer." And I thought, oh well, if you want to do it. And some said that it worked, some said that it didn't. So that was the way that it was in the old days, though.
Remember the magic sponge?
Yeah.
You used to just put it in like murky old muddy water with a few bit of smelling salts in it. And,
It'll be right. It'll be right. Get up. You're not hurt.
Workplace health and safety might be into that in modern day NRL if the magic sponge makes its return. So Broncos fans no doubt counting down the days till that preliminary final at Suncorp Stadium. Also congratulations to our Queensland teams who have qualified for the NRL final series. 6-team final series for the first time, half of them at Queensland. So Broncos, one of the favourites, Titans snuck in, and the Cowboys for the first time will play finals in the women's competition. And also, if you want to get an extra footy fix this weekend, the 2 preliminary finals in the Queensland Cup, you can catch it on 9 now. Saturday, 2 p.m. Burleigh Bears up against the Redcliffe Dolphins. Then Sunday, 2 p.m, the defending champs, the North Devils, up against the Wynnum Manly Seagulls. So a lot of feeder clubs there for the Dolphins. Both the Broncos Dolphins.
Yeah, well, Burleigh's
Broncos and Dolphins are Dolphins, obviously.
Yeah.
North's is Dolphins and Wynnum is Broncos. So
wow.
The Queensland rivalry continues.
Yeah.
And then make sure you tune in to Nine's Wide World of Sport, your home of all the NRL finals action. We'll be back next week on Queenslander.